On this November's ballot, you will see issue number 2. It is the only statewide issue on the ballot, and it is a proposed constitutional amendment that addresses how Ohio's congressional and General Assembly representatives are selected. In shorthand, it is called redistricting. Let me just talk a little bit about how the process works now. Every 10 years after the U.S. Census, the legislature, the state and Senate and state House of Representatives appoint committees to then redraw Ohio's congressional boundaries so that our congressional representatives are sent to Washington in a manner that reflects the division of our population, so that we have equal representation. These districts are relatively equal in population. It's something that is required by the U.S. Constitution. At the same time, an organization called the Apportionment Board, which is governed by statewide office holders for the most part, then also decides how to draw the boundaries of the legislative districts, and then that then determines which of our 99 House of Representatives members will be elected, and also our 33 state senators. The upshot of all of this is frequently the party that is in the majority in the legislature and or which controls those statewide offices tends to get its way in this redistricting process. You've probably heard the term gerrymandering, which goes back almost 200 years to how this process was carried out in the state of Massachusetts at the time. Sometimes these boundaries can be drawn in such a way that in order to maintain a political party's dominance in a certain area, these boundaries can get kind of confusing. Issue number 2 would seek to amend our state constitution and appoint a 12-member Citizens Commission, which would take over this process both for the U.S. Congress and for the Ohio General Assembly. On this program, we're going to talk about that issue, pro and con, and we're going to start out with those folks who are opposed to issue number 2. Michael Gonidakis is with the Ohio Right to Life. And Mike, it's good to have you back again.
Thank you for having me, Clark.
First of all, let me ask you what Ohio Right to Life has, what stake you have in this issue.
Ohio Right to Life has a 40-year history of working hard at the ballot box to elect great pro-life men and women to the legislature, to the governor's office, and all statewide offices. If this issue 2, does pass in November, it's going to take away our right to elect pro-life office holders because they're going to strip away our vote. And that doesn't just apply to the pro-life movement. It applies to other interest groups and associations as well, because that's what's the greatest part about our state and our country is we have the power of voting for our representatives. Now, there might be people on the other side that don't like who wins. I'm not a fan of our current president yet. We had a fair election, and we have the current president we have now. And we'll have another vote this November to determine if he gets reelected or not. But the bottom line, Clark, is that we have a system now, while not perfect, is better than what's being proposed here in this amendment.
This sounds to me like the system that is in place favors special interests rather than a broad spectrum of Ohio voters.
Absolutely not. I would disagree on that because keep in mind, in 2006, the lines were already drawn in 2000. In 2006, the State House turned upside down in the House of Representatives. It changed from the Republican Party to the Democrat Party. So the voters stood up on the lines that were already drawn by the Republicans in 2000, and throughout the Republican Party and the House of Representatives put in a new governor, had a new a Democrat attorney general. So the voters had the power in 2006, regardless of the lines that were already in place for 6 years, and throughout the Republicans based on their own line. So it's not tilted or in favor to any special interest group. And keep in mind, we also, every 10 years, make sure that minorities are represented in our government, whether in Congress or at the State House. We have African-American districts, Marcia Fudge up in the Cleveland area. We just drew a new one here in Central Ohio. First time in our state's history, we're going to have an African-American female representing us in Congress. We drew that district to represent minorities. That'll all go away with this new commission.
The fact that the party in power generally dominates the 2 committees in the State House that draw the redistricting map for the Congress and tend to dominate the Ohio Apportionment Board tends to solidify what at that point is the status quo. It seems to be tilted in favor of them what's God's gets. On the face of it, that doesn't seem to be a good system, seeing as how we are currently in a situation where our Congress has an 80% disapproval rating. it seems to me the system's broke, and issue 2 might be a step in the right direction toward fixing it.
Well, I think those might be competing interests, because the system being broke in D.C. is because the men and women that we send to Congress can't work together. That really doesn't have anything to do with the way we draw the districts, because no matter who we send to D.C., in Ohio or any of the other 49 states, they're not working together. So how we do that, let's make sure we continue to do it fair, and we just need to hold our elected officials accountable, both Democrat and Republican. As it relates to who actually controls the apportionment board, the voters decide. We do a census every 10 years, and then based on that census, we know how many seats we have in the state of Ohio, and then that election in that year, 2010, 2000, 1990, determines who draws the districts. But it's the voters, Clark, that get to decide. And if the voters don't like who's involved with that, then they can change it. What this initiative does is take away the right of the voters to decide who's in office, who controls the pen, who draws. Because the voters, it should always be. That's where our country was built on. So many men and women sacrificed their lives for the right for us to vote. Let's maintain that. We have a bipartisan commission right now that's meeting at the State House to come up with tweaks to make it better, more accountable, more transparent. Let's do it. Is it perfect? No, let's do it. But this initiative is terrible. Even the Cleveland Plain Dealer opined that it was terrible. Just this week, the prestigious Ohio State Bar Association came out and opposed it as well. So it's not just special interest groups, it's nonpartisan groups as well.
It almost sounds like we're putting it on the voters to think about a redistricting one election cycle ahead of redistricting. When you say we get a chance to have a voice in this process through our elected representatives, that's what it sounds like you're saying about, whereas the 12-member commission is going to involve actual citizens. There are going to be 9, I believe, that are selected by, I would call them politicos here in Columbus, but then there are going to be 3 others as well who are kind of selected at large. Seems to me the new idea gives us at least a little bit more of a say in directly affecting this.
Well, let's talk about this 12-person commission, because how do we define citizens? I can't sit on it because I work for an entity downtown that cares about government and cares about the pro-life movement. They have so many restrictions on who can actually sit on this commission that the average person can't. But you know who can sit on it? Big city mayors that just happen to be favorable to unions, and you're going to find more union people. The fact of the matter, Clark, is who gets to appoint the 12-member commissions? It's not going to be me, you, the members of the community here in Franklin County. It's going to be a very tightly knit group of people, and we can't allow any more backroom deals and smoke-filled rooms to decide who sits on the commission, because that's the real power, is the people behind the scenes appointing the members of the commission. I'd rather have all of us go to the ballot box. Let's get everyone registered to vote, and we can vote on Election Day. And if I'm fortunate enough to get the people that I support win, great. If not, well, then you still have to learn to work with them. We live in a country and a state where we learn to work together, and we're doing great things in here. But I'd rather have all of us go to the ballot box and vote as opposed to a secret committee getting together and appointing 12 people.
The citizens are also allowed to submit any plan they want. Anybody in Ohio who's got an idea can submit it, and the deliberations and the process is supposed to be open to the public under this amendment. That sounds like, kind of what you're describing. It sounds like it gives me a chance to have more of a say, even if I'm not a big city mayor, or even if I am a member of an organization that disqualifies me from being a part of the commission.
Well, that's the only thing we can do is look at the past. And in 2008, in the state of California, they passed this exact initiative. It's the only state to do it. At the time, Republican Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger thought it was a great idea. He supported it because he thought it would be a way to get the stranglehold of the Democrat Party away from California so he could get Republicans elected to the state house. Well, it backfired on him, because when it passed, the restrictions that were in place on who could sit on this 12-member commission, no Republican could get on that commission, basically. And it was basically set up where Republicans actually lost congressional seats after 2008 because they redrew the lines with this new 12-member commission. So it's going to be full of special interest, Clark, and unfortunately the way it is, and even the Cleveland Plain Dealer said it's going to be full of special interest of the unions. And while I'm not here to oppose unions specifically, but if Ohioans support those initiatives of unions, they'll elect members to the state house and to Congress that support them. So let's let the voters vote on these issues and not let the unions do an end run around the voters of Ohio.
There are 28 states that use what they call a legislative system for redistricting, both at the congressional and at the state house level. Ohio is not one of those. We have what's called a hybrid commission. So are you saying that since 28 states have decided to leave it up to our elected officials to do this, that's proof that it works? Because I'm going to go back to my other question about it's brought us to a Congress that has an 18%